Hello, I'm Michael Chakraborty.
And I'm Mark Watson.
And welcome back to Menkind, where we chat to a range of brilliant guests about masculinity.
Some of them are men, some of them aren't men, and some of them aren't particularly bothered either way.
We're interested in men.
Yes, obviously you are.
And what makes them tick? Where does masculinity come from? How does it affect us? And how could we be better?
We might not get a final answer, but we'll have a bloody good go at it. Won't we, Michael?
Oh, we'll do our best.
So, who are you? Let's get down to it.
Who am I?
Who, in your own estimation, are you? Yes, we know who you are, and many listeners will, but how do you normally address the question of who you are?
I am a human being.
Good start.
Good start. Yeah.
I am a stand-up comedian, a writer, a trier. I try my best. I try and make the world better and make people happy.
That's my thing, really, mate. Would you don't push that envelope too hard.
You're right. I'm going to do a show called Flaws at Edinburgh next year.
I'm all in favour of the world being more full of happiness through entertainment, but largely on my terms, I think, Tom, because I've made that my niche.
So if you can back off, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay, fine. I'm a former stand-up comedian who is retired during this podcast due to the bullying of the usually aggressive Mark Watson.
Yeah.
Well known.
People think I'm lovely, but it's a front. I ruthlessly shut down any other attempts at niceness in the way Disney shut down potential clashes of interest.
Imagine that you get me on your podcast to go, all right, mate, fuck off.
Yeah.
Can you...
And that would then make sense that we weren't releasing them, because if people ever heard these things, I'd be tarnished.
And you didn't answer how you are. How are you?
I was all right until I was threatened by Mark Watson.
I like this. Our podcast is normally so warm and inclusive. It's about time we had a really fucking horrible episode, I think.
It's going to be tense.
How has it become so horrible with me being like, oh, I try and be nice, and you've gone, no, this is going to be the horrible one.
Well, we always start our episodes with asking about people's first encounters with masculinity. What do you remember your first encounter with masculinity looking like?
I mean, it's kind of, and I know loads of people on the podcast do just say their dad. Well, their father figure or their lack of a father figure. It's kind of unavoidable that would be your first encounter because...
Well, Mark's was in a school toilet, wasn't it?
My answer was about another boy weighing on me because it had a poor grasp of how urinals worked, if I remember. Yeah. That would have been odd if that story had been about my dad, actually. But Tom is right. Our fathers do tend to loom over us in terms of masculinity.
But that story does explain a lot about you, Mark, to be honest.
I think so too, unfortunately. So anyway, so were you going to say your dad or your lack of a father figure, Tom?
No, my dad didn't wee on me, which I'm very happy about. That's good parenting advice for
Excellent parenting.
all the parents out there.
Well, apparently it helps with jellyfish things. So to be clear, it's probably good parenting if you've been stung by jellyfish, but otherwise...
In that very specific instance, yeah.
Just so we weren't shaming anybody.
Some would argue it's already bad parenting if your child has been stung by a jellyfish.
It probably means you've taken your eye off the ball to some extent, yeah. Yeah. Well, good news, darling. I've weed on the boy. Well, what's the bad news? Oh, I had to do it because he was nearly killed by jellyfish. Anyway, what's for dinner? So what was your relationship with your dad like, Tom? Or is that what you were going to say in terms of your early masculinity?
Yeah, I think you do look up to your dad a lot as a kid. You know, I always wanted to be like my dad. I always thought he was, well, he's still around. He's still in the earth. I was going to say, that makes him sound like he's not around.
That makes it sound like he's definitely not around, yeah.
No, he is still...
He's vertical in the earth rather than horizontal.
Yes, exactly.
Some would say on the earth.
I mean, unless he's digging a hole in the garden, then he's in the earth.
Yes.
Yeah, and most of the time, your dad can't be digging a hole, surely. Nobody spends most of their life doing that.
I'd say at least 30%, you know, actually.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah, he loves the garden. So.
What were the things about him that you specifically wanted to emulate, do you think?
Well, I always remember he kind of had quite a rough upbringing. He was sort of one of 7, and like his mum left when he was 3, and his dad had issues with alcohol, so it was quite a tough, tricky environment to grow up in. You know, he actually sort of basically dropped out of school to get a job to help support his family when he was about 12.
Right.
He always said to me and my brother growing up, the one thing he wanted to do was give us a better life than what he had, and that always stuck with me and was kind of a mantra that's always motivated me going forward, and it's made me think, yeah, that's what I kind of want to do with my life. I want to, you know, give my parents a better life and then have a better life for me after that. And I think that's quite common as parents, that you want to give your kids a better life. I mean, otherwise you're not very ambitious, I suppose.
Yeah, if you wanted your kids to have a worse life, then you'd have to ask some questions about that.
I want to give you the shittest life.
I've had a nice time of it, and I don't really want to pass that on to you, quite honestly.